Hi, it's Steve. In this video, we'd like to show you how to replace a suspension kit on your high-efficiency top-load washer. It's a really easy repair. Let me show you how we do it. Now, to do this repair, we will need access to the back of the washer. That will involve pulling it far enough forward that you can get in behind it. You may need to disconnect your inlet fill hoses and the drain hose from the standpipe. And you'll also want to disconnect the power, so simply pull the plug from the receptacle. Once we've done that, we can do the repair. Now that we have the washer out where we can work at it, our next step will be to secure the lid to the main top. So simply take some duct tape and tape it into the closed position. Now that we have the lid secure to the main top, our next step is to take a putty knife and we're going to go in this gap between the main cabinet and the top and depress a spring clip on each side, and then we can lift that top up so we can access the inside of the washer. I'm going to come in about 6 or 7 inches from the outside edge. You should meet the resistance of that spring clip. So just depress it while lifting up on that top. You may need to hold it in place. Do the same on the opposite side. Now the top and lid are quite heavy. So make sure you have a firm grip on that. And either position it so that you can lean that top and lid up against the wall. If not, you'll need some type of a lanyard to attach to the top and to the cabinet to keep it from tilting back too far. The hinges that are on this style of washer are not meant to support the full weight of that top and the lid itself. Now, once we've done that, we now suggest that you remove the tub cover. We'll begin by removing this hose in the left rear corner. So we'll need a pair of pliers to compress that clamp and remove that. So using our pliers, we're simply going to compress that spring. Just slide it back onto the hose a bit. You may need a flat blade screwdriver just to break the bond between that rubber hose and the plastic nipple on that tub cover. And just slide that hose off. And then we're ready to lift the tub cover off. It's held in place with clips all the way around the perimeter. We'll need to depress those and then lift the tub cover up off of the outer tub. Now, an easy way to remove this tub cover is to just grasp this outer lip and try to roll it away from the outer tub. And that will tend to disengage from those clips. You may need to apply a little bit of downward pressure as you're rolling that out. And then just continue to go around the perimeter of that outer tub and release all of those clips. Then we'll just set that aside. Now that will give us a little more room to see down where the actual suspension attaches to the outer tub. Now, to remove the old suspension rods, we're going to use a pair of locking pliers, and we're simply going to grasp that upper portion of that shaft, lift up on it, and disengage it from the hook on the cup here. Allow that to drop down through where we can remove the cup and bearing on the top. And then we can also push that suspension rod out through the opening on the side of the outer tub. So just reach in and grasp that suspension rod. Make sure that your pliers are adjusted so that you get a good firm grip on it. And we're going to lift up on that rod, which will pull the tub up some. We'll just rotate that bearing cup on the top. Pop that off of the rod. You can then lower that down through the opening. The next, we're going to punch out the little holder on the bottom portion of that suspension rod that attaches it to the outer tub. And typically, we just take something like a wooden dowel. And as long as you can access that plastic cup that the suspension fits into, now once we knock that down through the opening, we can slide it out through that slot on the side of that holder, and we can remove the old suspension rod. Next, we'll pop the bearing cup out of the recessed area on the frame. Discard that. First, we'll clean out that portion where the bearing cup sits. Simply going to snap a new one down into that opening. And we'll take our new suspension rod. We're going to drop that down beside the tub. And we're just going to slide that rod through that slot in the mounting bracket there. Pull up on it. Lock the lower bearing into place. Then we'll take our locking pliers and we'll clamp those onto the suspension rod. And we'll line it up with the opening through that bearing. And then rotate that bearing cup around so that the hook is in position. We can remove our locking pliers. And now we'll move on to the next one. Now in the right rear corner of this style of washer, you'll note that there is a holder that is attached to the drain hose, a harness that runs down to the pump and motor, and it's also clamped onto that right rear suspension rod. So we'll need to pop that off of the suspension rod first. So simply reach down in, grasp that connector, and just pop it off of the suspension rod. And now we'll use the same procedure. We're going to put our locking pliers on the upper portion of that suspension rod and lift it out of the socket on the top. So again, we'll grasp that suspension rod, pull the bearing cup off the top, allow it to drop down through that opening. Remove the old cup and discard those. And using our wooden dowel, we'll just push that cup out the bottom. Remove and discard the old suspension. Drop the new one down into place. Line up that retainer. Clean out the recess on the top. Pop the new bearing cup into place. We'll reattach our locking pliers, fit it up through the opening, and then position the bearing cup on the top. Drop the suspension rod down into place. And then all we need to do is reattach the retainer to the side of that suspension rod. So just be sure that we reattach that clip back onto the suspension rod. And now we'll replace the two on the left side of the washer. Now that we have all the suspension rods in place, we're ready to put the tub cover back on. I'll make sure that when we put that tub cover on, that we position it so that the nipple for that hose is in the correct corner. And then just go around the perimeter of that tub cover, ensuring that it is sitting on the outside of the tub. And then we can simply press it down into place, making sure each of those locking tabs engages. Now we're ready to reinstall that hose onto that nipple. Make sure that we press it on all the way. Then we'll slide the clamp up into place. Compress it with your pliers. And now we're ready to put the main top back down. Now when lowering that main top, we need to keep in mind that we need to line it up properly with the top frame of our cabinet. There are two holes on opposite sides of the bottom of that main top that will fit over two raised studs. And that will ensure that the spring clips on the front are in the proper position. So carefully lower it down. You may need to pull it just slightly forward. And once we've ensured that those two studs are lined up with the holes, we'll simply press it down into place. Make sure the spring clips are locked in position. We can then remove our protective tape holding the lid down. And we're ready to push the washer back into place. Now that we have the washer pushed back into place, we've reconnected our fill hoses if we've disconnected them previously. We have the drain hose set into the standpipe. We can reconnect the power, and your repair is complete.